If everyone's ready, we'll make a start. Hello. So good morning to everyone. Thank you all for attending. I'd like to welcome you all to the 6th episode of our Season 2 of Loops webinar. Loops is a live webinar series that focuses on highlighting the innovation produced by Horizon 2020 funding projects in the field of social innovation and circular economy. I'm Robert Brocken. I'm a communications assistant here at Felte. And the topic today we'll be discussing is bio-based solutions in agriculture. So to help with this discussion today, we've invited along 2 Horizon 2020 projects from the B-FERST project, Javier Brañas Lasala, and from the Rustica project manager, Tessa Avermaete. Thank you for attending. And just to start off the webinar, we'd like the guest just to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. I am Javier Brañas from Fertiberia company, fertilizer company in Spain. I am the R&D director in this company, and I'm coordinating the B-FERST project, whose aim objective is to recover nutrients from bio-waste for fertilizer production.
Okay, I'm Tessa Avermaete. I work at the Division of Bioeconomics at the University of Leuven. I'm postdoctoral researcher and project manager of the Horizon 2020 project, Rustica.
Yeah, perfect. It's great to have you on. So just a bit about the webinar. So we will have a presentation from both the projects. Tessa, Rustica will go first, and then we'll have a short Q&A. So if you want to ask any question, just ask away in the YouTube chat, and we'll be make sure to get answered. So Tessa, if you'd like to start.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and first let me thank you, Robert, for organizing this webinar, this Loops webinar series on Horizon 2020. It's really good to bring together different projects and bundle forces and see what we have in common and where we can enhance each other in our work. Rustica is indeed a Horizon 2020 project funded under the Research and Innovation Program of the European Commission. And in its full title, it reads the demonstration of circular bio-based fertilizers and implementation of optimized fertilizer strategies and value chains in rural communities. I know it's a long title, it's a quite complex title, and I hope in the next 15 up to 20 minutes I can unravel a little bit of that title, show you what we have been doing over the last year and what we will be doing in the upcoming 3 years. I think it's an excellent time now to find out what other projects are doing, what you in the audience are doing, and where you maybe can contribute, or vice versa, where we can contribute to your work. So, as I said, I'm working at the KU Leuven at the Division of Bioeconomics, more specifically at the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences. Our research focus is on sustainable food system and on sustainable land use. Most of our colleagues are agricultural economists, and we look at both the consumption side, so more sustainable food consumption, but up to the production side, we're looking into farmers' business models, for example, and mainly our focus is there on how we can give instruments to farmers to enhance their position in the value chain. I'm doing the project management of the Rustica project together with Margot Heremans. So if you contact info.rustica@kuleuven.be, you end up with one of us, and we can guide you to the right people in our consortium. Professor Elisabeth Franke is doing the coordination of the Rustica project, and she can count on the support of Professor Erik Matthijs. He has a long experience in coordinating European projects. Both Lisbeth and Erik will be the promoter of Erika de Keizer. She's a junior researcher in our group, and she will do a PhD. She's doing a PhD on the business models that are related to the Rustica projects. So enough about our team. What are we doing in the Rustica project? Well, the aim of the Rustica project is to foster the technical validation, the demonstration, and the implementation of bio-based fertilizers. We're making that bio-based fertilizers from waste, and not just any waste from the agro-food system, but more specifically fruit and vegetable waste. Doing that, we want to close nutrient cycles at the regional level. So what we're not going to do is transport food waste all the way from the south of Europe up to the north to transport them back, bio-based fertilizers to the south. That wouldn't be very efficient. No, it's really looking at closing nutrient cycles at that regional level. We're also not just looking at the technical part, we're also interested in the economic and the environmental part. We want to come up with economically viable and environmentally sustainable alternatives for mineral fertilizers being used nowadays in fruit and vegetable production. These are some key data of the Rustica project. So we are 16 partners. I will later on show you where we are located. We are active in 8 countries. We are using 6 technologies, 5 more innovative technologies, 1 more mature technology. We're working in 5 multi-actor networks, 5 regions where we are active, and we're really closely cooperating with the stakeholders on the floor. And we will develop 2 pilot demonstrations in Europe. We had the pleasure to meet in a face-to-face meeting, a project meeting in December in Almeria. And in Almeria, we have 3 partners located of the Rustica Consortium. This is a picture taken at Biosabor, which is a family company and has over 180 hectares of greenhouses with vegetable production, mainly tomato production. And here you see we met with, in fact, 14 partners were represented at our meeting. And then here you see it's academic partners and non-academic expertise that we have in the Rustica project. And I will start up in the south of Europe with the 3 technical partners in the Almeria region, being Biosabor, a family company with 180 hectares of greenhouses. They're really working at more environmental techniques for the production of fruits and vegetables. Then we have Teknova, also one of our technical experts in the project. Entomo, as the name says, it's on insect biomass production. And then in Spain, we also have our communication, exploitation, and dissemination partner, which is IDC. Then in France, we have the Chambre de Commerce de Pays de la Loire. As probably many of you know, there's a lot of fruit production in Pays de la Loire. So this is very relevant expertise for the Rustica project. Then in our own region, in Flanders, we have several companies being involved, not just KU Leuven, but also the Institute of Agriculture and Fishery, known as ILVO. And then we have Dranco, which was formerly OWS. And they will be guiding us through the technical part of the project. They have the technical coordinator of the Rustica project on board. They work also closely with Avecom, a company located in the area of Ghent, and also with the University of Ghent as one of the partners in Flanders. Then a bit more up to the north, we have TNO, and TNO will help us to make biochars. So the final step, in fact, in the technical process. We also have CropEye on board, and I'm glad that Dan Kuiper is one in the audience as well. He's an expert in multi-stakeholder projects, bringing together people, experts in agriculture and horticulture. So that's really nice to. So if you have later on technical questions, Dan will probably be more than willing to answer them. As you can imagine, working on bio-based fertilizers, you also need to have legal expertise. You cannot just introduce anything to the market. And therefore, we have Wiedemann on board. That's a German company, small company. Then for the LCAs, life cycle analysis and economic feasibility studies, we have Particula, a group in Research Institute in Croatia. In Italy, we have CREA, and CREA has access to over 5,000 hectares of experimental farmland. They're also helping us out on building scenarios when it comes to bio-based fertilizers. Those are the partners in Europe. And then we also have one partner, an important partner in Latin America, being CIAT, International Institute for Tropical Agriculture. There we have a case study in Colombia, but as you can imagine, SEAT is not just interesting for having a case study up there for the Rustica project, but also for reaching out to global stakeholders and enhancing our outreach. Why do we then have this Rustica project? Well, there are several arguments, and I think these 4 dots here are the most important ones. First of all, we have the issue of nutrient pollution, and for the Rustica project, we especially look at the pollution because of nitrogen and phosphorus polluting water and soils. Together with that, we have soil degradation, which leads to declining organic matter content and erosion. And of course, that leads in turn to decreasing productivity of the farmland in Europe, and not just in Europe, but it's a global tendency. Then we have food waste, and these are figures for fruit and vegetable food waste in Europe, which is over 80 million tons a year, which is of course immoral if we see the challenges that we face in terms of food security. And then it's not just the food waste that is an issue relevant for the Rustica project, but it's also a fact that over 70 million of tons of dry matter remain on the fields. And also there's an opportunity for the bio-based economy in Europe. What do we want to do? We want to recover the nutrients from the food waste, and recovering that, we want to also give an opportunity or give an alternative, a more sustainable alternative to the mineral fertilizers being used nowadays for fruit and vegetable production. What are our objectives? Well, we want to foster the validation, the demonstration, and the implementation of bio-based fertilizers. We'll be using 6 technologies for the mineral nutrient recovery. As I said, not just the technical part is interesting for us. We're also looking at the business models. We want things to be economically interesting for the stakeholders, and also a good alternative in terms of ecological terms. And we're active in 4 regions in Europe and 1 region in Latin America. Here you can see on the map where these regions are. I already said we met in Almeria because there are 3 partners located there. It's quite obvious that we have 1 region in Almeria, case study region. We have 1 in Pays de la Loire, 1 in Flanders, 1 in Italy. Now my Italian probably fails. Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. And then we have 1 in Colombia, which is the Cauca region where SEAT is located. Our work plan, as you can imagine, those who are involved in European projects know it. We have a lot of work packages. You can find all of them on our website, in fact. But basically, you can distinguish between 4 foci that we have. 1 is on technology optimization and integration. 1 is on systemic feasibility assessment. 1 is on the regional multi-actor approach and pilot demonstration. And there we fully follow the guidelines that are developed by EIP Agri. We have been involved in several EIP projects, European Innovation Partnership projects, working together with the stakeholders on the floor. Not just regional stakeholders are very relevant and interesting to us, but also European and even global stakeholders will be an added value, and hopefully also vice versa. We can be an added value for these stakeholders. I already said we're working on 6 technologies. Here you can find the technologies. So we're, and you also see then in the dark color, the partner who is responsible for these different technologies. We have microbial biomass production, carboxylic acid platform, insect biomass production, electrodialysis, and of course, the mature technology of composting will also be relevant for us. These 5 technologies, they will lead to a product that will be used to for making a blend, which is implemented into biochar production. And there we have the expertise of our Dutch partner. And we are doing that in the 5 regions. And here you see them once more on the screen. That technological development has 3 components. We want to optimize and demonstrate technologies for the nutrient recovery from fruit and vegetable residues as source for bio-based fertilizers. We want to demonstrate the integration of technologies to reach a combined nutrient recovery of more than 90%, which is, we know, very ambitious. And we want to demonstrate the production of these fertilizer blends adapted to the local demand. As I said, we're not just interested in the technological side. What we develop also has to be economically interesting and adding up to environmental sustainability. Therefore, we're doing market analysis. And in fact, we already did quite some work on that market analysis. And we developed for each of the 5 regions market sheets that if you're interested in that, you're more than welcome to contact us. We're also looking at techno-economic analysis. Our German partner, Wiedemann, already did a lot of work on the legal analysis. And then we are working on environmental and social LCAs. We're following the European multi-actor approach. We're following that multi-actor approach in the European region, but also in the Colombian region. We bring together stakeholders. We will bring them together twice a year. We already had in all the regions a first workshop. And all along the project, we will be contacting our key stakeholders, asking them for feedback to ensure that our project is relevant for the work they are doing. So also, not just the technological development, but also after the project ends, that people really can go ahead with the technologies being developed. Regional stakeholders are, of course, important, but also we have European and global experts that we want to get feedback from and that we want to inspire with our project. We have a first European workshop that will take place in Flanders in April 2022, and then a second workshop that will take place in Colombia in April 2023. I also take the opportunity here to say something about the MOOC that we have developed, and a MOOC is a massive open online course on sustainable business models. In fact, I already said we are agricultural economists as at the University of Leuven in the Rustica team. We are doing a lot of European projects where again and again we focus on enhancing the position of the farmer. We have 4 projects currently running. In fact, the newbie project just ended, but the other ones are Cocoreado, the Rustica Project, and then Fox, which is about food in a box, fruit and vegetable waste that is used for human consumption, so making processed fruit and vegetable productions. And we combined forces to make this course on sustainable business models that should guide farmers, young farmers, older farmers, to develop good business models. It's a free course, it's instructor-paced. In fact, we start off on the 10th of January, so next week. It will run for 6 weeks. You will need about 4 to 6 hours to complete the course, and you can subscribe. You see here the link to subscribe to that course. And I think that's in a nutshell what I wanted to say about the Rustica project. So if you have any further questions, more than willing to answer them.
Yeah, thank you, Tessa. That was perfect. You just touched upon, if anyone has any questions, just ask away in the YouTube chat. I'm sure Tessa will be happy to answer them. Javier, if you would like to be...
Javier, I see you are saying something, but you're mute.
Yeah, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Tessa. Hello, thank you very much, Robert, for organizing this event. It is very interesting to be here with the Rustica project because it's a project that is very close to B-FERST project. And so it is much more interesting. Well, B-FERST project is bio-based fertilization products as the best practice for agriculture management sustainability. It's a 5-year project coordinated by Fertiberia, the fertilizer leading company in the Iberian Peninsula. We have 14 factories in Portugal, Spain, and France, and the production capacity of 5.5 million tons of final products. And we are in this project with 10 more partners that are RTOs and industry. As, for example, Novamont from Italy that produces polymers and biopolymers, and FKUR from Germany that does these sort of products also. They develop technology, biopolymers, a water company, very important water company from Spain, that is Aqualia FCC. A company from precision farming, that is Agrisat. Okay, and also for regulation, Acadia. A research center, IUN from Poland and University of León from Spain. Vito for LCA and LCC analysis. AG Futura from North Republic of Macedonia for the business plan. And Icons from Italy for all the communication and dissemination activities. Well, the aim of the project is creating new value chains by integrating the valorization of biowastes in the fertilizer production. Okay, we are doing now, developing 8 new enhanced bio-based fertilizer that includes in its composition new raw materials from biowaste. Okay, so we will combine the traditional raw materials with these new raw materials in the classical or traditional production of fertilizers. Okay, we will have a look to the nutrient situation in Europe. Okay, the thing is that Europe has not the natural resources that are needed to produce nutrients for agriculture. So Europe is a net importer of nutrients. We are depending a lot on natural gas. We are seeing it now with all the problems of the gas with Russia and Algeria and all of this. Okay, and the gas is the raw material needed to produce ammonia, that is the building block to produce all the nitrogen fertilizers. Okay, the imports of phosphate rock per year are about 90% of the needs. And the reserves of potassium in Europe is only 2% of the total reserves worldwide. So you can see very easily how this is a very important subject, because these 3 nutrients are the most important nutrients for agricultural production. Besides, society is increasingly committed to environment protection at the same time as demanding more resource efficiency. And there is a need for improvement of agricultural sustainability. That is true and is a very good thing. And it is also necessary to enhance the competitiveness of agriculture in order to maintain this very important economic activity, with also all the other social benefits that it includes. Okay, and the thing is that all these nutrients that we have been importing for several years, in many cases, end their lives in wastes, in the water treatment plants, in manure, wherever, or even fixed into the soil. Okay, so something has to be done about this. But biowaste has advantages to the soils again, positive effect of organic matter in the physical properties of soils, the carbon fixation in the soil if this carbon has been stabilized after treatment in the organic matter, improvements in biodiversity, microbial activity of soils, etc. And also some cons. For example, the salinity, the heavy mineral content, or even the nutrient content, because if this content is applied in excess, there is an excess of nutrients that it is happening in many places because of the concentration of cattle or things like that. Then we will have contamination problems. Okay, the pathogens, bad smell, insect vectors, emerging pollutants, etc. So the question arises: can all bio-waste be part of the fertilizer value chain as raw material for mineral fertilizers? And the answer is not easy, because it depends. To close the loop in a successful way, it's necessary to work on several aspects. First is the quality of the bio-waste, meaning nutrient concentration and nutrient availability. So I would like to point out a popular misconception that all bio-waste can be used effectively as a fertilizer, and this is not true. I mean, to be used as a fertilizer, it is necessary that it has a high nutrient concentration and that these nutrients are in available forms for plant uptake. Because if not, it will not have any fertilizer effect. And it is usual that in bio-waste, the nutrients are in unavailable forms. Okay, so this is very important. I give you some examples of bio-waste. That one in the orange table is digestate. If you have a look to the nutrient content, it is very, very low. So altogether, nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium has less than 2% of total nutrient, okay? In the opposite way, if we take two samples of a dry bio-waste, for example, an ash from an agro-industry, this case is the olive industry, it has 30% of K2O. Or an ash from manure, it has 23% of K2O plus phosphorus and magnesium. So the difference between liquid one and solid one is huge, okay? Other aspects to take into account, well, before that, yes. I want to show you a table that we designed in a project, previous project that was called NewFert, and that we have optimized in this B-FERST project. It's a table about bio-waste requirements for mineral fertilizer production. This means what we would need to introduce a new raw material from bio-waste in the production of mineral fertilizers in our plants. Okay, so this table has physical aspects. I mean, for handling, for example, it is very important sometimes. This is very important. Sometimes it is even more important than nutrient concentration or with the same importance, because if we can, if the bio-waste cannot be handled into the factory, it is impossible to manage with it. Okay, as the nutrient concentration, you can see that we have fixed 10% of a nutrient. Why 10%? Well, imagine that we want to produce, I don't know, a typical triple 15 or 17-8-10 or something like that. I mean, a typical complex fertilization fertilizer, and we take a bio-waste that has 5% of K2O, 5%. Then we say, okay, we will introduce 100 kilograms per ton of this bio-waste. In the end, we are substituting only 0.5 units of K2O in the fertilizer. And this is very low. It's very difficult to manage with that, to valorize that. So we will say, okay, then we will introduce 400 kilograms per ton. And we will recover 2 units of K2O. That would be very good. But then the formulation will not be the same. It will be lower because there's no room for the other nutrients. I hope you understand me. So, and the farmer needs to use concentrated fertilizer, because if not, it is more expensive for him, for logistics, for petrol with the tractor because he has to spread more kilograms per hectare, etc. Well, and some other parameters like heavy metals and contaminants and so on. Well, other aspect, a very important aspect is the logistics. This is very, very important because of the quantity and the location, and it's expensive to move biowaste from one site to another. Another aspect is biowaste transformation to raw material. One thing is the biowaste, another thing is the raw material, and sometimes it's not the same. Okay, here you can see on the left a pilot plant built by Aqualia FCC, this project, to recover phosphorus from a water treatment plant. And on the right side, you can see a scheme of a recover process, but from solid biowaste. So in the left side is from a liquid biowaste, in the right side is from a solid biowaste. This process we are going to build in the next few months a demo plant of this process in the south of Spain, in our factory in Huelva, to recover phosphorus also. Okay. Well, another aspects, the agronomic quality enhancement, because well, we have to take into account that if we are going to introduce new raw materials that have part of the nutrients in available forms, but part of them are in unavailable forms, there is the risk that the agronomic quality of the new fertilizer will not be the same. So we have to take care about this and to introduce other factors, biostimulants or other things in order to improve the performance of the fertilizers and to guarantee to the farmer that the fertilizer will be at least as good as the best mineral fertilizer they can find in the market. Product validation is essential. The economic feasibility, nutrient recovered versus nutrient from mining. One of the most difficult things is to make these new technologies competitive, comparing with the traditional fertilizer production. Okay, the regulatory framework and the social acceptance. And so, in B-FERST project, the different activities that we have designed have been designed to give a positive answer to all these aspects we have seen in the previous slide in order to be successful. First, to develop a logistic model to use biowaste for fertilizer production at 3 different levels, local, national, and EU also. So moving long distance the biowastes and the fertilizers. Second is to develop a new technology able to integrate low-cost primary resources from biowaste to NPK production. Okay, to develop new mineral and organomineral fertilizers and new biostimulants to improve these fertilizers. To prove the fertilizer's effectiveness at demo scale in Spain, Italy, France, Poland, and Ukraine. We are going to validate also this best through satellite images technology. We'll make a full market analysis and to do a strong communication and dissemination activity to introduce the products in the market. Okay. This is the production scheme or the value chain scheme. Okay, you can see in the center is the fertilizer industry, and we are going to introduce in the fertilizer industry new raw materials from biowaste or nutrients recovered through the nutrients recovery process. So the biowaste will be processed through one of these, for example, these two processes I have shown you before, that one from Aqualia and the other from us, in order to recover the nutrients and solubilize them and make them available for plant take before introducing it into the fertilizer industry. Okay. Also, we will use biostimulants and coating agents in order to improve the efficiency of these advanced products. Just to finish, I will give you two examples of two fertilizers we have produced at pilot scale. Now, this is an NPK 10-10-10, so it has 10% of nitrogen, 10% of phosphorus, and 10 of K2O. Okay, it has bio-based materials, bio-based coating, and a biostimulant. And as a result of that, we can say that 24% of the raw materials come from biowaste. Okay, and we have recovered or we have introduced 16% of nutrients from this biowaste. The other example is an organomineral fertilizer with the same formulation, 10-10-10. Okay, in this case, we have introduced 42% of raw material from biowaste. That means that we are recovering 8% of carbon within this fertilizer. Okay, and this is from my side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Javier. Yeah, that was really interesting. We'll just start just before we get into the Q&A. If anyone have any questions, please ask away for Tessa from Rustica or Javier from B-FERST. Just to start off the Q&A, I think I'll start with a question. A question we'd like to ask just both speakers. As you've watched both presentations, your projects are similar, but they also have differences. Do you have a question for each other? Is there any curiosity that popped up?
Well, I'm longing to see the results of Rustica Project, because these technologies, I've heard about them. We are even evaluating them. I would like to see the point of view of Tessa about if you think they will be competitive with a traditional fertilizer, or this is the main issue, something to be worked with that.
Yeah, sure. That's it's of course our aim to be competitive at the final end with the mineral fertilizer. I think it's probably way too early to really prove that in fact, but I think we have many things in common, like your economic feasibility studies that you will be doing. It would be really an added value to compare your work and our work, and to bring the researchers of both teams together. Same for the legal aspects. I see you also have, of course, the legal issues that you're dealing with. It will be nice to see how you deal with them, how we are dealing with them, and then learn from each other as well. And then also in terms of stakeholders, we are now starting off at the European and the global level, bringing stakeholders together. I think it would be an added value if we do that together, because as probably everyone knows, there's a lot of stakeholder fatigue in Europe, and I guess it's no different elsewhere in the world. But then it's good that we come with a common story to these stakeholders and ask their feedback on what we are doing, and their insights to improve our projects. So no, I really see a lot of things that we have in common. Of course, we have a different approach. We are really looking at fruit and vegetable waste. We're making bio-based fertilizers. We're using different technologies, but still many things in common as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tessa, do you have any question or like any curiosity or?
Well, so it's not really a question, but it's more like, it's a question for, let's maybe sit together once and then see how far we are from both sides, and see how you are dealing, for example, just as one example for the feasibility studies. How are you going to proceed, and maybe can we bundle forces there to improve the work from both sides?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think we can collaborate with projects together with this. That is one of the main problems, because technically a lot of things can be done, but it is very expensive. For example, just to give you an example, electrified production is usually very expensive comparing with the ammonium phosphate you can find in the market. So, and one thing that we have very clear is that we cannot increase the fertilizer price to the farmer, because the farmer has not to afford that, So it's necessary to be very creative and to find solutions that are very cheap in order to use this biowaste to solve the problem of pollution and concentration of biowaste in some places, to reduce the imports of nutrients from abroad.
Yeah, fully agree. If it's not going to be competitive, farmers are not willing to use that, which is normal. I mean, they're just operating on a global market. So if we come up with something that is maybe from a technical or an environmental point of view very interesting, but from an economic point of view, it's less attractive than the mineral fertilizer used nowadays, then it doesn't make sense at the end. So yeah.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Would you like to comment on this? I see a question that seems to be getting. I'll put it up on the screen. A lot of research has already been done on manure processing into fertilizers. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, from our side, Dirk, hi, nice to see you here in the audience. We are not we are not focusing on animal manure, animal waste or waste streams. It might be really interesting, and we have, of course, Dranko and Davocom, I'm sure, and even the University of Ghent. They do have some expertise in this, but our focus is really on plant-based waste and not on manure.
Yeah, I think that yes, of course, a lot of work has been done on manure processing to fertilizers. The challenge for us is to produce mineral fertilizer and organomedia fertilizer, where manure is not so. It's not something that we use. I mean, to produce these sort of fertilizers. The advantage is that the fertilizer industry, the mineral fertilizer industry, has a very, very high production. So it's a very good place where to put this biowaste in order to reduce the problem of biowaste, because the consumption of this biowaste would be huge. Okay. There is another question, I think, about organomedia fertilizer. Where is the organic part coming from? Well, it is from compost. It's from compost, from manure or compost. Well, a compost that has some nitrogen. It's important that it has some nitrogen in order to fulfill to fulfill with the legislation, because some of the nutrients have to come from the compost. But compost is a good raw material because it is stabilized. I mean, it's safe for the people who work in the factories. It's safe for the farmer. So it's something that we can include easily in our plants if it has some concentration, mainly in nitrogen. Okay.
Yeah, no, thanks. I have another question just for both projects. We'd like to ask, what challenges have you faced during the project? Either it be from like a technology standpoint or just another aspect. Has there been anything that popped up?
Yeah, one of the things but every European project nowadays faces that is both things, two things, in fact. On the one hand, this stakeholder involvement. We do need people that work on the floor, that are experts in farm, in agricultural production, to be involved in the project. The stakeholder involvement, we are confronted with stakeholder fatigue. They have been contacted by so many consortia, and sometimes it takes a long time to really implement something. And yeah, they might be very skeptical to invest their time in consortia like ours. That's something that we face and that everyone faces, I guess. And then that, together with the fact that we have the COVID situation where it's hard to meet in person, and this is really necessary. I mean, if you want to, we saw it with our project meeting in Almeria, for example. If you bring together people live, it really enforces so much more discussion. So that's something we struggle with for sure, and let's hope that we can we have some more better times to come in 2022, where we can really have the field visits, the real active live interaction between partners and the stakeholders. So that's something that we struggle with, and that I'm hopeful for the future, but let's wait and see, of course.
Yeah, I agree with Tessa that it is very, very difficult to develop a project like this online. I mean, and I think we had 2 meetings face to face, and then the rest have been online. And we try to organize the next, that is in January, face to face, but I think it is going to be impossible to do that. Yeah, but luckily the project is not delaying very much, just a little bit in some activities, but it is not the same. And when people join together and can discuss more effectively, things like that.
Maybe related to that, and that's maybe a call if anyone from the Commission would be in the audience as well. But I think we would all benefit from the Commission taking action also in bringing these the teams that are working on bio-based fertilizers together. You see a lot is taking place, and thank you, Robert, for organizing this kind of events. Sure, we are involved in other projects related, but I think after all, it's the Commission who has the best view on what kind of teams are working on what kind of topics, and to see this relation between the teams. And I think there is still a lot of room for improvement in taking action and bundling the forces and making use of the budget, European budget, more efficiently when it comes to European innovation actions or research projects.
Yeah, no, you're both exactly right. Yeah, that's probably the main reason why we host this webinar, is to bring projects together and promote, sustainable development and circular economy. So yes, we'd love to see more engagement with projects, and hopefully after this, there's more, if you used to, contribute to each other, and even other, projects that are watching right now. But back to another question I have, just as you both touched upon it in great detail about your consortiums. We're just curious, what's the best part of working in a consortium? Because in EU projects.
Well, I think it works pretty well. It is a lot of work. It's much more easy to make a project individually. But with the consortium, we have a lot of points of view together. I mean, other heads thinking at the same time about the same problem, but very different points of view. So the result is much more constructive and improved when we do this in the consortium.
Yeah, adding to that, in the past, and I've been in European projects since 2014 now. No, in fact, for my PhD, so since 2000. And in the past, it was very much research teams that were bundling forces. It was very academic. And now we see much more non-academic partners, like Javier's company, being involved in this European consortia. And I think it really adds value, because it brings together academic and non-academic expertise. Then you need, of course, a partner that really well watches over the IPR, the intellectual property rights that come across with these the challenges that we face. But for big issues like enhancing the bio-based economy in Europe, I think we need to bundle forces, and we should not do that on our own island, looking from our own perspective, but we should work together as much as possible. And in that sense, European consortia or even across Europe working together is really adding value. And then sure, I mean, it's also a pleasure, of course, to work in the European environment, to see really what's happening all across Europe, to meet different cultures, to bring, for example, junior researchers together, to see PhD students from Flanders working together with PhD students in Italy or in Spain. That really also adds value, I think, to the education. So yeah, it's a joy and it's a need at the same time.
And it also allows us to see the problem from different areas. I mean, it's not the same, and with farming, it's very clear. It is the same in the Iberian Peninsula than in the north of Europe or Central Europe or whatever. The problem exists, and the management is needed, but the management probably will be different in one place, in one area, and in the other. So it's a way to see it from a global European perspective much better.
Yeah, no, you're both exactly right. Yeah. I guess just to kind of finish it off, the webinar, I just have kind of one question left. So in the past, there's been restrictions on like the free movement of bio-based fertilizers, but like in recent times, the European Commission has announced new regulations with the bio-based fertilizers now given the CE mark, allowing them to be sold across Europe. We're just curious, like, what do you think about the new regulations? You know, it's a great step forward.
Well, the new regulation is very good for all this. I mean, it's a very big change in the regulation. Now it includes a lot of new material components to produce the fertilizers, as for example, digestates or precipitated phosphates from for example, from processes in water treatment plants and things like that, or ashes, a lot of things. So it's clear that this new regulation has been designed to introduce circular economy in the fertilizer production clearly and strongly. Okay, so and this is the only way to introduce circular economy in the fertilizing practice, to do it right. Okay, so well, we will see in the next few months how this new regulation starts, because it will begin in July 2022, so this year, and then we will see how it works. Okay, but I think it's very good in order to make Europe a recycle society.
Yeah, or maybe put it another way, it would be weird if we did not cooperate and really facilitate this kind of exchange within the European Union. For us, we have an additional challenge. Of course, we're working together with CIAT Colombia. So if we're doing some transportation between Europe and Colombia, we do face different regulations, of course, but we have some good expertise there as well. So I'm hopeful that will work out. And we're not transporting big tons of fertilizers. We are trying to build up a plant in Colombia separately over the years. So but it's good that at least in Europe the regulation is being is helpful to us.
Yes, thank you. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to seeing, what's next for your projects. I'd just like to wrap the webinar up now. It's been great. I'd like to thank Tessa and Javier for attending and showing us the fantastic work their project is doing. I'd like to thank everyone for watching the webinar and just and asking questions and engaging. Just to tell you about our next webinar, will take place on the 27th of January. The episode will be about urban transformation, and we've invited 2 Horizon 20 projects called Reflow and City Loops to help us in that discussion. So thanks again, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, audience. And Javier, I'm sure we will be in contact in the future.
Yes, of course, Tessa. Thank you very much, Robert.
Good. Have a nice day, all of you. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.